Welcome to the deep dive. Ready to explore a story that's, well, frankly, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, this one was a doozy.
It is. We're diving into what went down when Elon Musk got involved with the U.S. federal government.
Should be interesting.
You had some questions about it, and honestly, after going through all these news articles and briefing documents you sent, I gotta say, it's even crazier than I thought.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We're talking about an ultimatum that basically caused a rebellion in the government, potential national security issues, and a peek behind the curtain at how much power Elon Musk actually had in the Trump administration.
I think this really gets at, how much influence private citizens can have in government.
Especially when they're buddy-buddy with the president.
Exactly.
All right, so let's set the stage here. It's early 2025, and President Trump has just handpicked Elon Musk to lead this government efficiency initiative.
Okay.
The goal, streamline everything / costs. Basically shake up the whole system.
Sounds about right for him.
Right. And we all know Musk isn't exactly known for being subtle.
He's not exactly shy.
No, he is not. And this time is no different.
So what do you do?
Well, it's interesting how he went about it.
Yeah, how so?
Imagine you're a federal employee just doing your job, and all of a sudden you get this email from the Office of Personnel Management.
The OPM.
Yeah, OPM for those who don't speak acronym.
Right.
And it's basically an ultimatum, straight from Musk himself.
Oh, wow.
Demanding that every single employee summarize their weekly accomplishments.
Summarize for who, though? And what if they don't?
That's where it gets really intense.
Yeah.
The email actually stated that if you don't respond by a certain deadline, it'll be considered a resignation.
Seriously?
Yep. And to make sure absolutely everyone got the message, Musk took to, his platform X.
What used to be Twitter.
Exactly. To reiterate the demand.
Yeah.
He even posted, and I quote, "Failure to response will be taken as a resignation."
Wow. Talk about a power move.
Right. No mincing words there. But what was the reasoning behind such a drastic demand? Was it really just about, making sure people were working? Or was there something more to it?
Well, the sources you gave me actually point to a few different things.
Okay.
On the one hand, Musk seems to have genuinely believed there was a ton of fraud happening within the government.
Interesting.
He talked about non-existent employees on the payroll, people getting paid for doing nothing.
So basically wanting to weed out the so-called slackers.
Yeah, but it goes a bit deeper than that, too.
I was going to say there's got to be more to it.
Yeah, this belief in all this government fraud, it kind of fits into a larger pattern we see with similar claims about programs like Social Security.
Yeah, I see.
Often these claims are unsubstantiated, but Musk seems to really distrust government institutions in general. He thinks they're full of inefficiency and corruption. So this email blast, it was his way of shaking things up and exposing what he saw as these huge systemic problems.
Okay, so a mix of wanting to boost productivity and a genuine belief that the system's broken. But did he consider how this would land with the people actually working in these agencies?
Right.
I mean, being told, do this or you're fired, it doesn't exactly scream teamwork.
Not really.
No, you'd think demanding resignations via email would raise some eyebrows.
You'd think.
And you'd be right. What happened next was a level of pushback that I bet even Elon Musk didn't see coming.
Really?
Yeah. This wasn't just a few people complaining. This was a full-on rebellion brewing in the federal government, and it came from some pretty powerful players.
So who exactly stood up to Musk and said, hold on a sec, we're not playing this game?
We're not talking about just a few disgruntled employees here. This was full-on defiance from major agencies.
Like who?
The FBI, the State Department, a whole bunch of intelligence agencies, including the NSA, even the Department of Defense.
Wow.
Basically, a huge chunk of the government decided to push back against Musk's directives.
Some coordinated effort to just ignore a direct order.
And from Elon Musk, no less, he really struck a nerve with this one.
Seems like it. So why such strong resistance, though? Was it just about protecting their turf, or were there deeper concerns?
It was definitely multi-layered. Some agency heads saw it as a blatant power grab.
Like a Silicon Valley billionaire trying to steamroll the government.
Exactly. They felt like Musk was overstepping his bounds, trying to exert control outside his designated role.
Ah, so there was a bit of a who's the boss power struggle going on.
Oh, absolutely. Egos and institutional pride were definitely involved.
Oh.
But beyond that, there were real anxieties about what could happen because of Musk's ultimatum.
Okay.
And these went way beyond hurt feelings or bureaucratic turf wars. We're talking potential breaches of national security and violations of legal and labor agreements. Remember, the federal government, it doesn't exactly operate like a tech startup.
Yeah, true.
There are rules and regulations and chains of command that you can't just ignore.
Even with a presidential mandate.
Even then. So yeah, we're talking about something much bigger than just hurt feelings.
Okay, so you mentioned national security concerns.
Right. Can you elaborate on that? What were these agencies actually worried about?
Well, the intelligence officials were especially concerned. They were afraid that forcing thousands of employees, many of whom work with sensitive information every day,
Right.
to summarize their work, even if it wasn't classified, could create a huge security risk.
How so?
Think about it. If you compile seemingly harmless bits of information from all these different agencies, you could unintentionally reveal patterns or connections that someone could exploit.
So like piecing together a puzzle, each piece seems insignificant on its own. But when you put them all together, you get a clear picture of something you weren't supposed to see.
Exactly. It's not just about protecting classified documents or top secret missions.
Right.
It's about understanding that even little details, when you put them all together, can be used to compromise sensitive operations or expose vulnerabilities.
Okay, that makes sense.
And foreign intelligence agencies could totally exploit that.
And it sounds like Musk wasn't backing down despite these concerns.
No, not really.
It was basically a trust me situation.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
And this is where that clash between Musk's style and how the government actually works becomes even more obvious.
Oh, so?
The agencies pushing back weren't just being stubborn or protecting their turf. They were dealing with legal obligations, procedures, and security protocols that they couldn't just ignore.
Even for someone like Elon Musk.
Even for him.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got this standoff brewing. Musk's demanding accountability and efficiency. The agencies are pushing back saying, hey, we've got security and legal concerns. And somewhere in the middle, you've got President Trump.
Right, the one who put Musk in charge in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Where does he stand on this whole mess? Was he backing his guy, or is starting to think maybe he gave Musk a little too much power?
That's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of the power dynamics in the Trump administration.
Right.
At first, it seemed like Trump was totally on board with Musk's shakeup. He even reportedly encouraged him to be more aggressive in his pursuit of reform. But then, as the pushback got stronger and the concerns about legal and security breaches grew, Trump's support seemed to waver.
So, not exactly a strongman move.
Not really. So we've got this showdown, and it seems like everyone's choosing sides. What happens next? Does Musk back down? Do the agencies cave? And where does this leave President Trump?
Well, buckle up, because this is just the beginning.
Oh.
The fallout from this clash will have repercussions far beyond those government agencies.
Yep.
And it'll force everyone involved to rethink the balance of power in a world where private citizens have this unprecedented access to how the government works.
This is getting good. We'll dive deeper into all of that right after. Well, we'll just dive right in. So we left off with this huge showdown. Elon Musk wants to completely overhaul the federal government.
And he's got the president's support.
Exactly. And on the other side, you have these powerful agencies saying, hold on a second. We have some serious concerns.
They were worried about security, legal issues, and just basically how things are done in Washington.
Right. It's like a real-life David and Goliath story, but with a lot more bureaucracy.
And like in that story, the underdog might just have a few tricks up their sleeve.
Okay, how so?
Musk might be amazing at disrupting the tech world, but the federal government, that's a whole different beast.
So did he realize he'd bitten off more than he could chew? Did he back down?
Well, backing down gracefully isn't really Elon Musk's style.
No, I guess not. What'd he do?
Faced with all this resistance, he turned to his platform X to fire back.
Ah, so the fight moved from government emails to social media.
Basically, yeah.
Classic Musk. What was his strategy?
He started accusing the agencies of stonewalling and even lying about how much waste and fraud there actually was.
Oh, so he doubled down on those claims about non-existent employees and all that?
Exactly. He painted himself as this, crusader for transparency, taking on a corrupt system.
It's a classic populist playbook.
Pretty much. Yeah. He positioned himself as the outsider, fighting for the little guy against the establishment.
Clever. But did it work? Did the agencies cave?
Not quite. These are institutions with long histories, set procedures, and powerful people backing them.
Right.
They weren't going to be intimidated by some tweets, no matter how many likes they got.
So was it a stalemate?
Not exactly. Musk didn't officially withdraw his ultimatum,
Okay.
but all the pushback forced him to change his approach a little.
Interesting. So what did he do instead?
Instead of demanding weekly reports from every single federal employee, he shifted to targeted audits and reviews.
So he got a little more specific.
Yeah, focusing on certain agencies and programs.
Okay, so less my way or the highway and a bit more finesse.
Right. There were some practical reasons for the change.
Like what?
Trying to process millions of reports from the entire government would have been a logistical nightmare,
Yeah, that makes sense.
even for someone with Musk's resources.
Right.
But more importantly, there were legal problems.
We touched on that earlier, but let's dig a bit deeper. What were the legal hurdles?
Musk seemed to forget or maybe just ignore that a lot of federal employees are in unions, and those union contracts guarantee certain rights. You can't just fire them for not answering an email.
That would be a legal mess.
A huge one. Not to mention all the potential lawsuits from employees who felt their privacy was violated.
Yeah, I can see that.
So even with the president's support, Musk couldn't just disregard the law.
And this is where Congress comes in, right?
Yep. The branch of government that's supposed to provide oversight and accountability.
So were they just watching this all play out? Or did they step in?
Let's just say they weren't happy about being left out.
Really?
Yeah. Lawmakers from both parties started voicing concerns about how much power Musk had.
Ugh.
And they worried about the potential for abuse.
So what did they do?
They launched investigations, scheduled hearings, and basically made it clear that they weren't going to let the president and Musk run wild.
Classic Congress asserting their authority.
Right. And this is where we see checks and balances actually working.
Even with all the partisan gridlock.
Yeah. Both Democrats and Republicans agreed that Musk's actions were a threat, and they took steps to control him.
So a rare moment of bipartisan agreement. What about the agencies? How did they react to this support from Congress?
It emboldened them. Knowing they had powerful allies in Congress, they got even more assertive.
Oh, yeah. How so?
They stalled, they obfuscated, they used every bureaucratic trick to slow Musk down.
So we've got bureaucratic inertia going head-to-head with Silicon Valley disruption.
Exactly. And it wasn't just passive resistance either.
What do you mean?
Several agency heads went public with their criticisms.
They did.
Yeah, they accused Musk of being reckless, ignorant, and basically not understanding how the government works.
So now we've got a full-blown PR war going on.
Pretty much.
Did that make things worse, or did it help?
It definitely added fuel to the fire,
Okay.
but it also forced both sides to rethink things.
How so?
Musk realized he couldn't just bulldoze his way through the government. And the agencies realized they couldn't just ignore the president's agenda.
So did they meet in the middle? Did they compromise?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about two completely different worldviews clashing.
Right.
Musk was all about efficiency, disruption, results.
And the agencies.
They cared about process precedent and protecting their own turf.
So finding common ground wasn't easy.
Not at all. It sounds like a recipe for chaos.
So what happened? Did anyone win? Did Musk achieve his goal? Did the agencies keep their autonomy?
It's complicated.
Oh.
There weren't really any clear winners or losers. It was more like a long, messy negotiation,
Okay.
with each side giving a little and adjusting their expectations.
So no big climax or resolution, but what about the bigger picture?
Right. What does this whole episode tell us about the Trump administration, about Elon Musk, about American politics?
Yeah, what did we learn?
That's where things get really interesting. Because this clash wasn't just a personality conflict or a power struggle.
Okay.
It was a tiny version of the larger forces that are reshaping American politics and society.
And those forces are still at play today, even years after Trump left office.
Exactly.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. What are these larger forces? What does this story tell us about power in the 21st century?
That's a question that deserves its own deep dive.
I bet.
But to give you a taste, think about the role of technology. The rise of populism, the erosion of trust in institutions,
Okay.
and the increasingly blurred lines between public and private sectors.
Wow, you're right. There's a lot to unpack there. And to think it all started with an email from Elon Musk.
It did.
But before we go too big picture, let's get back to what happened right after this clash. Did things calm down, or was there still tension?
Oh, this is far from over.
Okay, so we've seen this whole power struggle play out. Elon Musk versus the federal government. Congress steps in. President Trump's caught in the middle. What happened after all that? Did things ever go back to normal?
I don't think things ever really went back to the way they were before.
Really?
Yeah, this whole episode left a mark on everyone involved.
Okay, so what happened to Musk's big plan to make the government more efficient?
His initial plan, to completely overhaul the whole federal bureaucracy that was definitely dead.
So it failed.
Yeah. The resistance from the agencies and the scrutiny from Congress, it was clear that his whole move fast and break things style wasn't going to work in Washington.
But I'm guessing he didn't just walk away empty-handed.
You're right about that. Someone like Elon Musk doesn't give up that easily.
So what did he manage to accomplish?
Well, he couldn't force through his whole vision all at once.
Right.
But he did manage to get some changes started. Remember those targeted audits and reviews we talked about?
Yeah.
Those actually led to some real reforms in certain agencies and programs.
Oh, so he took a more subtle approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He focused on specific areas where things were really inefficient.
So less revolution and more evolution.
Exactly. As a pragmatic shift, he had to adapt.
So he learned that to make real change in the government, you have to work within the system.
It seems that way. Even someone like Elon Musk had to adjust his style when he came up against the reality of governing.
What about the agencies that pushed back against him so hard? Did they come out of this okay?
They definitely proved their point. They showed that they weren't going to be bullied.
Right.
But they also learned that change was coming, whether they liked it or not.
I guess so.
And they realized that they had to embrace some reforms if they wanted to stay relevant.
So it was a bit of a wake-up call for them.
Exactly. They had to adapt and evolve to keep up.
What about President Trump? Where did he end up in all of this?
Trump's role is interesting. He started out fully supporting Musk, giving him a lot of power, encouraging him to shake things up.
Right.
But as things became more controversial and the political risks increased, he seemed to back off.
So he let Congress take over.
Pretty much, yeah.
Classic Trump is big on bold ideas, but not so much on the details of governing.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
It also shows how hard it is to bring outsiders into government.
How so?
They often come in with big ideas, wanting to change everything, but they underestimate how complicated the system is. And they forget how powerful the people already in charge are.
And in this case, those people pushed back hard.
They did. And it forced both Musk and Trump to change their plans.
So what's the takeaway from all of this? How did this whole episode change the way we think about private citizens in government?
I think it's a cautionary tale.
Okay.
It shows that even the most brilliant people can't just force their will on the government.
It's more complicated than that.
Much more. And it highlights the importance of institutions and processes in protecting democracy.
To keep any one person from having too much power.
Right. And it reminds us that we, the citizens, have a responsibility to hold our leaders accountable.
No matter who they are.
Exactly.
So this deep dive into Elon Musk and the government, it's really raised some important questions.
Yeah, about power innovation and the future of democracy.
And those questions are only going to become more important as technology keeps changing the world.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for taking us through all of this. It's been a fascinating story.
My pleasure. It's always interesting to explore the complexities of power.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new today.
And maybe even came up with some new questions of your own.
Because at the end of the day, learning is a journey.
It never really ends.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep engaging with the world around you.
And remember, the future is something we create together.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.